Welcome to the Mets Pod. On today's show, a bounce-back weekend for the Mets. We talk Nolan McLean's debut, the offense heating up, the rest of the pitching still struggling, and of course, what's ahead. We go down on the farm as we look at the latest AAA promotions and how guys like Jonah, Tong, and Jett are doing in Syracuse. And of course, we answer your mailbag questions. So subscribe to the Mets Pod on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can watch every episode on SMY's YouTube channel or wherever you get your shows. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Mets Pod presented by Tri-State Cadillac. Performance, range, style, 3 different ways to make every drive an occasion. Whatever your reason, there's never been a better time to say, let's take the Cadillac. The all-electric Cadillac family of vehicles, Escalade IQ, the Vistic, Optic, and Lyric. Visit your Tri-State Cadillac dealer today. I'm your host, Connor Rogers, joined as always by my co-host, Joe DeMayo. And before we get to anything today, we have a big announcement. The Mets Pod will be live at Citi Field before Mets-Phillies. It's going to be a huge game on Tuesday, August 26th. We'll be live at 5 p.m. at the Home Run Apple outside of the Rotunda as part of the celebration that night of SMY's 20th season of Mets baseball. Yes, it's already been 20 years. Special giveaways at the gate. The SMY crew doing the game from a different location. And we are working on some special surprises for that show as well. 5 p.m. Tuesday. That is, of course, August 26th. Be there. Stop by. Say hey. Go watch live on SMY's YouTube channel if you won't be there. And, of course, on other social platforms. Thank you so much to everybody that's been checking in with us all year saying, hey, when's the next live show? We love seeing you guys. We love getting you guys on the show. It's a lot of fun, Joe. I can't wait to be at Citi Field. And it's going to be a pretty special one with a lot of anticipation, I think, going into that game.
We haven't done a live show, obviously, since spring training.
We're going to be rusty?
Yeah, we're not rusty, Connor. No. You're a pro, and I hang on. But, man, I'll tell you, I'm excited to be there. The Mets, obviously, we're a better tone, I think, for this podcast based on how the last couple of games went. So excited to be there. Mets, Phillies, doesn't get better.
You know, it's funny you say that. You bring up the tone. You and I have watched the Mets our whole lives. I think, though, since doing this podcast, it raises the stakes even more because, right, it's Sunday Night Baseball, Little League game, really cool atmosphere, all of that, and we'll get to all of it. But I was so jacked up after that win because I was like, the Mets are off Monday. We're going to record a podcast with some positive vibes. They took 2 or 3 from the Mariners, who have been excellent, not only this year, but really just recently. And it's exciting, and it's because it's been a tough couple weeks watching the team, doing the show, and saying like, "Hey, we don't know what happened to this team. They're just in such a rut." And while it's a 500 week since our last podcast, they went 3-3. It just feels like, Joe, really they just are out of it a little bit right now. And I'm not saying that everything's perfect, but the energy around Nolan McLean's debut. And combined with the offense, and yes, the Mets still have their pitching problems, it's because it was the Mariners that they beat 2 out of 3 that it's like, okay, let's start to turn the corner here.
Connor, the environment at Citi Field on Saturday, which I would like to personally thank the Mets. I bought these tickets months ago just in anticipation of getting a Juan Soto bobblehead. I didn't know I was also going to get the debut of Cowboy. So, man, the crowd was into it, super into him. The ovations that he got when he first went on the mound, the ovation after the booing of Carlos Mendoza that he got when he walked off the mound. There was multiple times the cameras went to him to get him to do a curtain call. And in Cowboy fashion, he was just waved.
Yeah, surprising wave.
Yeah. He's not going to be, I don't think, the flashy kind of guy, but boy, he was so impressive. When you look at the usage of his pitches, the curveball is a pitch that I have highlighted as something I want to see him throw more. He only threw it 9% of the time when he was in AAA. That's going to be a big pitch for him versus left-handed hitters at the big league level. He threw it 21% of the time and got an almost 50% whiff rate on it. The average spin rate on it is the best of any average spin rate of any major league curveball. So by definition of being able to spin the baseball, nobody in Major League Baseball can spin a curveball the way Nolan McLean can. The sweeper is as go-to pitch, and that was pretty money. And what was also really big, I saw an uptick in the use of his sinker. This is going to be another emphasis on getting after left-handed hitters. That's what Nolan McLean struggled with at the AAA level. So the sinker, the curveball, those are going to be the pitches you're really going to want to keep an eye on. And as you see, if you're watching on YouTube, the stat line below, the 4 walks, a little higher than you'd like, but walks are always going to be, I think, a part of Nolan McLean's game. And part of that is his pitches move so dang much that they just end up off the plate or down or up, depending on, where he starts the pitches. But man, just exciting to see a young player that the Mets drafted as a two-way player focus on pitching. Now he's putting it all together, and he gets to make his major league debut in front of 42,000 people and lives up to every bit of the hype against a lineup that's frankly littered with all-stars.
That lineup has so much power and so much star talent. I mean, obviously you have a guy that's the front runner to win the MVP of the American League in Cal Riley. But you look at Julio Rodriguez has been one of the ascending stars in this league for a while. They brought back Eugenio Suarez. I mean, it's a loaded lineup. It really, really is. And of course, old friend, and by old friend, somehow nemesis, Mitch Garver just hits a home run against the Mets every time. It's truly ridiculous. Yeah. But you're right, Joe. I'll say this too with the staff, because Senga's been either hurt or not pitching deep into games. It was fun watching a pitcher with wipeout stuff. Like the 8 strikeouts for the Mets, even when the pitching was rolling this year, and then it obviously took a nosedive. Clay Holmes, really after the first month of the season, doesn't strike a lot of people out anymore. David Peterson doesn't need to strike people out to go deep into games. Senga's a strikeout guy, but once again, he hasn't worked deep into games this year, and we haven't seen a lot of Minaya. We know he has that in his arsenal, but he's not going to miss a lot of bats right now. So I thought there was a different energy to watching Cowboy Ohtani on the mound, because he was somebody that the stuff wows you. And that's, with these young guys, when they come up, these hitters haven't really had a look at them. So they have that advantage. And then the second thing is, I mean, this is what the Mets farm system is going to try to spit out. They want these guys with these insane advanced analytics and data around their pitches, whether it's spin rates, obviously bigger than just velocity, but the different kind of movement combined with the velocity. It was a lot of fun. And, you get that magical behind the back double play, which probably set the place into an absolute uproar. And I'm glad you said it, because it's a good shout out to the Mets fans that have been showing up. And as much as the team has struggled during the stretch, the team really, really appreciates it. Like they take note of it, the energy. Like this was a time to get behind the team and try to kind of force them out of it. And, the Little League environment game as well, Joe, it just felt like the environment of that and some of the vibes with the kids watching and cheering and them getting Soto to shuffle a couple of times. It just feels like, you don't want to get too carried away, but it feels like the last 48 to 72 hours are okay. Like it doesn't feel like they're pinned against a wall for the first time in 2 weeks, honestly.
And Connor, back to the fans at Citi Field really quick. They're showing up every day. It wasn't just they showed up because it was bobblehead day or because it was it's weeknights. They're showing up. So maybe we could take a step back and realize a lot of the crazy is online, right? And there are still the fans still at their core believe in the talent of this roster. Because if they didn't, they would show that by not showing up. So I think despite the way they've played, the fans have really shown up because they think this team still has something. And I do as well. And when you go to the Little League environment, Soto shuffle, we should have stole that at Citi Field, because all we heard in April and May is Soto's not happy because he's not shuffling. Maybe you just need to chant Soto shuffle at him when he's up, and all of a sudden he'll shuffle. He goes by command, not so much feel, maybe as much as we thought. But man, it was fun to see them hang out with the kids and go down the hill, which gave me anxiety because I'm just thinking that's so Mets. Something's about to happen. Someone's falling out of this little cardboard box car, and they're going to go on the IL with a fractured leg or something. I didn't know what was going to happen, but they made it out okay. The only thing we're going to keep an eye on here is obviously Francisco Alvarez exited. So unfortunately, as high as the vibes are, Alvarez did leave Sunday's game after jamming his thumb into second base, sliding head first, and he's getting an MRI. And, as we record here on Monday, we don't know the results of that yet, but we need to get Francisco Alvarez to sliding school. He has two options here because he cannot head first slide, apparently. Slide feet first every time, or learn how to, like when you slide, you go and you lift your hand up. That's the whole idea of a head first slide. He digs his fingers into the dirt as hard as he can. So we need to work with Alvarez on the sliding, and hopefully, as you listen to this show on Tuesday or whenever you listen to it, the results of the MRI were more promising than negative, but just something to keep an eye on there with Alvarez.
Right, and the disappointment is just so high because of how good he's been since he's been back. He's been a spark for this team offensively, and you know what? Through all of the pitching issues they have right now, and the bullpen acquisitions at large have struggled, and Gregory Soto honestly has been probably the best of the three.
No, definitely.
Yeah, by far.
It's not even close. Yeah,
it's funny though how little he gets discussed, but every time he's out there, he's getting it done. Rogers, I think. Maybe this is me being a homer or blindly optimistic. I think he's run into some unlucky contact, which is part of his game because he's a contact pitcher. But a lot of times it's never there's times where guys stick their bat out there and punch one out, and good for them. That's good hitting against Rogers. But I'm a big believer that Rogers is going to be a big positive going forward. Helsley is the one that there's just no way you could sit here and be like, everything's going to be fine. Yes, he's throwing absolute gas, but he's not missing bats at the rate that we're expecting him to, Joe. So the bullpen has been a little shaky, and it becomes magnified when and this is why they got them, but it feels like this bullpen is always, until Sunday night, in these insanely high leverage situations because the starters are not getting it done for the most part and are not keeping leads. So we'll get back to the offense in a second. And as much as there are some positives right now, Joe, there is some consistent struggles with the starters handing the bullpen with a cushion and the bullpen that's supposed to be able to handle high leverage situations being able to be stoppers and shut it down. Neither are happening, where if the Mets are going to win right now, most of the time they're going to have to mash their way to wins.
And Connor, what it comes down to here is they blew leads in 7 straight games, and that's a mix of starters and relievers, of course. This bullpen was brought in to be the strength of this team. The Mets, I think, deep in their heart, know the rotation is not going to be the carrying card of this team. What has to happen is the rotation has to find a way to pitch deeper into games for the rest of the regular season, and then in the playoffs, no stars go deep anyway, so you're not exactly up in arms about that. The offense is, as you said, we'll get to in a second, but the offense is starting to do their thing. This bullpen needs to figure it out. A guy like Ryan Helsley, the concern is he's not locating his fastball at all. The slider has still been a good pitch for him, though he missed on that one to Suarez I believe it was Suarez on Friday night, and he ripped that ball. But the slider's largely been okay. The fastball, and the ESPN booth get a lot of grief. They were actually right about Helsley on his fastball. That is, it's got velocity. It's a straight fastball. Like when we talk about guys like Jonah Tong and these young players that have, the induced vertical break and this rise on the fastball, Ryan Helsley is a straight fastball. So if you're going to be straight on your fastball, that's okay, but you have to be up in the zone with it. If you're middle or down, that ball's either going to get hit or it's going to get fouled off, and you're just going to have to live to throw more pitches. So he needs to be more consistent with his location of the fastball, and maybe just lean heavier and heavier into the slider. Because I'm not giving up on Ryan Helsley. I still think he could be that guy that is your 8th inning bridge guy to Edwin Diaz. But it's just obviously been a rough start for him, and Tyler Rogers, as you mentioned, a rough start for him as well, as far as just pure results go. But the batted ball data is still kind of lining up with what is normal for him. And as much as he's able to be a rubber arm and pitch nearly every single day, it would behoove the Mets to try to at least get him a day off here and there.
I absolutely agree. And I'm with you. I'm not just out on Helsley or losing faith in Helsley. You got to call it how it is. From 2022 to 2024, the last 3 seasons, this guy in 152 games is a 1.83 ERA. He's got special stuff. But obviously, location is key. Confidence is key. He's got the strikeout stuff. Get his confidence back up and have him be this guy that can really bridge to Diaz, or even in a higher leverage seventh inning, be that guy. To the offense again, Joe, because you mentioned the offense is kind of clicking here. And it's when you read these numbers, it's mind-blowing to think that the Mets don't have a better winning percentage in the month of August. It shows you how problematic at large the pitching has been. This has been a big talking point on this show, and you had a tweet on Monday morning at PSL The Flushing, of course. The big three for the Mets right now in the month of August, because our big point of this show has been two of the three will get going at once, never three of the three. And it always feels like that third guy is not even average. It's well below average that can kind of sink it. In August, Lindor, OPS is over 1,000. 4 home runs, 12 RBIs. Soto, 951 OPS, 5 home runs and 9 RBIs. Pete Alonso, OPS over 1,000, 6 home runs and 19 RBIs. Of course, huge congrats to Pete, the new Mets single all-time home run leader. This is what we've been waiting for, Joe, and it's amazing that the pitching has been so bad that it hasn't actually produced the results in total that we're hoping for. But the big three are rolling right now, potentially at the time of the year where the Mets need them most, that you sit there and go, these three are so good right now that if the pitching is average and the guys in the lineup around them are mediocre to average, this team will win more games.
And even if you want to go a little further than the big three, and obviously it all hinges on that, right? If the big three aren't going, the Mets offense isn't going to be going. But you mentioned Francisco Alvarez, OPS of 1059 with 3 home runs and 11 RBIs in August. Brett Baty, 958 OPS with 2 home runs and 5 RBIs in the month of August. So this lineup is right now 5 deep that you feel really good about. And Brandon Nimmo's kind of going through it a bit. McNeil's OPS isn't there, but he's hitting for average, which is more of an average, which is kind of what you're hoping for from
McNeil's
him.
Been a plus, man. I know, because I did what you probably did when I was researching what everybody's done in August. I was like, McNeil is a sub 800 OPS, but it feels like he's been so much better than that. He's had timely, good contact hits, which is all this lineup needs from him right now.
That's what you need when these guys are getting on base, like Lindor, guys like Soto, who's consistently getting on base. You like to think, the Mets blowing 7-game leads in a row, that's probably not going to be a routine thing. You have to imagine there are better days ahead, specifically for the bullpen. We can have conversations about how we feel about the rotation, but I can't imagine Ryan Helsley is just going to be bad the rest of the year. I can't imagine Tyler Rogers is going to consistently give up runs. I think the bullpen's going to shake itself out, and if these top three, and if you take it 5 deep, 6 deep with some pretty good performance, that's a team that's going to rally off a whole bunch of wins. And we could be looking up in a week, 2 weeks, and especially this week with Washington and Atlanta. I know that's always a bugaboo for the Mets, but look, Atlanta's still not a great team. The Mets should be able to win some games there. We could be having a podcast next week with a completely, utterly different outlook on this team if those top 3-4 hitters in the lineup continue to perform the way they have in August.
Let's close out the week that was, Joe. Is there anything different you'd like to see in the lineup right now?
No, honestly.
Really?
We were banding. I mean, I guess if you want to flip Brandon Nimmo and Jeff McNeil, that's probably it.
That's my. Yeah. I just feel like right now, and Nimmo is so streaky. He has weeks where he just carries you, but then he has stretches where he's just lost. I don't like Nimmo behind Soto. And I just think it defies the logic of the type of player Soto is, that he's just always on base and he's always a threat. And I just feel like it kind of gives pitchers an escape when Nimmo's not going. And in the month of August, his OPS is well below 700. So he is not going right now. It gives pitchers an escape hatch.
No, you're right there. Maybe that is the play. Maybe it's just flip McNeil and Nimmo, keep putting Nimmo in the 5 spot. And I think that's probably the best solution. Like we were talking about Soto leadoff, but Lindor seems to have figured it out.
Lindor's back. Yep.
So let's just keep him there doing his thing. Soto 2, Pete 4. Let's go, McNeil 3, Nimmo 5, Alvarez 6. And then the bottom of the order is kind of however you situate on a day-to-day basis, which Mark Vientos, big home run Sunday. We need to see Mark Vientos play more. I know that Mendoza has given, Marte opportunities, and Marte has to play some too, and Mauricio has to play some too. Like, you can't just sit these guys permanently, really. But Vientos started to figure things out, I think, for a little bit. And then all of a sudden he was like weirdly benched for almost an entire week. And then you get put in the lineup and it's like, what do you expect to exactly happen when the guy's not playing or pinch hitting? And a big moment for him on Sunday. So if I'm Carlos Mendoza for this week, almost every single day, if possible, I'm doing Jeff McNeil at second, Brett Beatty at third, and Mark Vientos at DH. And let's see if we can get momentum going, because Vientos is that guy that you could bat seventh right now and not really be so concerned with him. But he can have a week where that opposite field home run, that's 2024 Mark Vientos. We saw that all year last year.
Right.
If you could get some of that, it just makes the lineup so much more dangerous, so much longer. And I think at this point, Ronnie Mauricio is going through a cold stretch. So let's temper back the Ronnie Mauricio playing time and let's boost up the Vientos playing time.
I'm with you all the way. Anything Vientos can give this team is just so important right now for the major league clubs. So let's see. It's a big week with all the division games they have coming up, and they got to kind of keep their foot on the gas from the weekend. Let's go down to the farm. Plenty of new faces with the AAA team. We'll go through Jonah, Tong, Jett Williams. Carson Bench just put on the 7-day IL. But let's start with Tong, Joe, who got to make his first AAA start, and it felt like kind of more of the same for Jonah.
He's incredible, man. Just watching this kid pitch, it's so fun. The energy that he has on the mound, like McLean, poised in the moment. Like you're not seeing any excitable anything from him, right?
He's a business approach kind of guy.
Yeah, 100%. Jonah is, on a check swing, he's pointing at the guy like he went. You see, like, and when he gets a strikeout, he gets a little hop off the mound. There's like youthful excitement when Jonah Tong is on the mound. And if you're watching on YouTube, the stats below, 5 2/3. He only allowed 3 hits, no runs, 2 walks, and 9 strikeouts, which could have been 1 walk and 10 strikeouts. But there was an ABS challenge on a called strike 3 that got overturned. So it would have been 6 innings shutout with 1 walk and 10. But what was strike 3 actually was ball 4. So that's something that he'll have to deal with. And 18 swing and misses, Connor, getting to this next level and still generating those swings and misses. The fastball topped out at 98 miles an hour. The changeup was an absolute weapon. His new Vulcan change is honestly probably his most reliable secondary pitch now, and it's a brand new pitch for him this year. And Jonah Tong being number 2 in the system for me, it's very exciting. And when I post his highlights and his stat lines, I know that every single response is bring him up, call him up. This is a guy that probably is not going to be up this year. I think the roster machinations won't really work out. But boy, this is a guy I would be keeping a incredibly close eye on, as I know everyone is, as 2026, I think is going to be the year where that Jonah Tong debut comes. And this is the guy in the system that I think has the potential to be truly special.
Jonah Tong, a guy that has just dominated now at multiple levels of the minor league system, looking to carry that throughout AAA. And, it's his ascension has just been wild to watch. And there's no reason to think it won't continue right now at that next level. Jett Williams, Joe. And now he's a guy that has briefly played on the AAA team, but another guy that just kind of carried over the success right away. He's off to a hot start down in AAA. Jett feels dangerously close, Joe. I'm not saying he's going to be on the major league team this year, but it just feels like his development has gone on the perfect trajectory this year after the previous year that was, after previous time that he lost due to injury.
And it's almost gone under the radar, which is wild because for me, he's the number 1 prospect in the system. And for some other outlets, he's number 2 or number 3, depending on how you want to kind of flip that around. He just took the AAA like he took the AA. I mean, we're just a few games in. He played 6 games, but 348 average, OPS of 1009. He just looks like Jett Williams. No different. The same kind of player, spark plug, run it. Like he had a couple infield hits where he beat out some balls into the hole. Like Jett Williams is pushing for an opportunity with the Mets. And as you said, I don't think, again, that is a 2025 thing, but I think this is going to be a conversation that started very, very early in 2026, whether that is a center field or a second base opportunity. Jett is, I'm very comfortable that I have him number one. And, Carson Benj, as you mentioned, on the 7-day IL, I've been told it's minor, nothing to be overly concerned about. So I don't think this is going to be an extended stay on the injured list for him. But Jett Williams just doing Jett Williams things. And I know, Connor, he's a favorite of yours, and he's the type of player that you really gravitate to. And I think it's the kind of player that Mets fans are really going to gravitate to as well.
Just the athleticism spark he's going to give the major league club one day is something that the Mets have a lot of talent right now, but the more athletic they can become, and we'll see where he settles in position-wise, because I know they've played him a lot of different places. It's going to be a lot of fun watching Tong and Jett when they get up to the major league level. All right, let's do a little down on the farm mailbag before we get to the scoreboard here, Joe. Little Buddy fan, 5-star review. Thank you so much. Do inning limits on the AAA pitchers impact decisions whether to call them up now and future usage this year in the big leagues? So, Joe, I mean, I'm sure this is kind of circling around the topic. A lot of people are looking at Spro and Tong and saying, well, with how teams handle their young pitchers in innings, there might not even be an opportunity for them, even if they were dominating at that level, to make another jump this year.
It's actually a great question, but I think this is the same conversation that we've had about Clay Holmes. The Mets aren't setting arbitrary innings limits.
Which is different.
They're not going to be relentless and silly and just throw guys 100 pitches every time just to do it. So they're being cautious of innings and making sure these young guys are being taken care of because you don't want to get them hurt. But now you have the data behind these decisions. It is not, the days are largely gone where it's just he threw 115 innings last year. That means you really can't throw him more than 145 because arbitrarily we say no more than 30 innings more. There's no true science behind that. So I do think it plays a role because where the Mets stand as far as a team that is trying to make the playoffs, trying to make a deep run into the playoffs, you don't want to call up a young player and have restrictions. You want to be operating normal for them. Like Nolan McLean, for example, I know there was a lot of conversation about Carlos Mendoza taking him out and when he did. And, it made all the logical sense in the world, as much as I would have loved to have seen him finish 6 innings. Gregory Soto dominates lefties. Josh Naylor's coming up. Eugenio Suarez has crazy reverse splits. He was hitting like 160 against lefties. And Nolan McLean has never thrown over 96 pitches in a professional outing as of yet. He is still in his first full year as a full-time starting pitcher. So it's still some developing for him to get there. But yeah, I think largely you want to make sure that when you're calling up these young people and you're giving them an opportunity specifically on the pitching side, there's going to be no restrictions. You're going to be able to pitch them like normal. And if that's 5 innings, that's 5 innings. If that's 6 innings, that's 6 innings. So I think the Mets are monitoring these guys properly. And a guy like Brandon Sproat, we'll talk a little bit about him, I think, later on. But I think he's a guy that's squarely in play to get an opportunity here soon.
You're listening to the Mets Pod presented by Tri-State Cadillac. Subscribe to the Mets Pod at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SNY's YouTube channel, or wherever you get your podcasts. Let's move over to the scoreboard, Joe. We took a week off last week, so here's a reminder of where we stand. You're up 10, 57-47. I've spiraled out of control. Let's see if I can bounce back with the Mets. 7 games this week. It's a pretty big week for us. Usually we're around 6. 3 against the Nationals, 3 against the Braves, 1 against the Phillies. Joe, you lead the season right now, so I'll let you start with the first category, which is over-under pushes at 2 for Pete Alonso home runs.
I will go under on the Pete home runs. And look, Pete, congratulations again. You mentioned, and we kind of glossed over the fact that Pete Alonso.
So much is going on.
Yeah, there's so much happening, but congratulations to Pete becoming the Mets all-time home run leader. And, that's going to be a big part of the conversation as we head into the stretch run and into the offseason shows about, continuing his career as a Met. But I'll just go under on the home runs. I feel really good about where Pete's at-bats have been lately, and I want him to keep going with that. And, there's power mixed in there, of course, as well. So could be easily a push or an over, but I'll go under and just trust the approach that Pete Alonso's taking.
I'm going to go with the push here of 2, which is a lot in 7 games. But as we always say with Pete, why he's one of the hardest players to project on the scoreboard competition is he has stretches of none. He has literal games of 2. That's the thing with Pete. Now, what he does always do is he slaughters the Nationals. He's a career .303 hitter against the Nationals. He's hit 28 home runs in 99 games against them. So, Pete, can you get me 1 against the Nationals and then just 1 in the 3 games against the Braves or the 1 against the Phillies? We'll see. I got some ground to make up. So there's not going to be a ton of piggybacking off of answers here from you, Joe, that I can ride with anymore. Over under is 6.5 Juan Soto walks. Juan has 8 walks in his last 7 games. Of course, the last game we saw him at the Little League Sunday night game, he had 3 walks. I felt like as soon as he started shuffling, Joe, he was never seeing a strike again. Pitchers were like, no, thanks. I'm not giving these kids any more chances to cheer him on. No. So that's a big one, having those 3 walks in the 1 game. The number is 6.5. I'm actually going to go under here, Joe, because listen, Soto is locked in right now. He is drawing a ton of walks, but this is one of those things where, man, like 7 or 8 walks, you're going to have at least one of those 3 walk games, which he could do, but I'm still going to play the under.
I'm going to play the under as well. I was very tempted to go over, but boy, it's a lot to ask.
Big number.
And it's a lot to expect. I know he has 8 in the last 7, but I think it's a lot to expect for that to continue. And ultimately, I want Juan Soto taking his walks and having his good at bats, but I also want Juan Soto hitting the baseball. So hopefully it's a couple more home runs and a couple less walks. I'm willing to take that trade-off. So I'll actually join you on this one, maybe only, but on this one, I'll join you for the under.
How about the over-under push for 1 Mark Vientos home run?
This is really tough, Connor. I think I'm going to push, but the only question I have here is Mendoza going to take our suggestion and play Mark Vientos? I don't know if he is. So maybe this is a bit of a sucker play by me by taking the push, but I was very happy with his at-bats on Sunday night. It wasn't just the home run, the sacrifice fly, battling back in that count. He looked a lot more comfortable. So I will push and say Vientos will hit a home run. I'm guessing you're going to be under?
I am going to be under. And this is tricky because dude, the sac fly, I thought he smashed that ball. And he did. He hit it to dead center field pretty far. That was a really, really good at bat. And then you just show how strong he is with the opposite field power that we always talk about. I'm not doubting Mark Vientos right now. I think Mark Vientos looks good at the plate. I don't know if he's going to play more than 2 games of these next 7. If you guaranteed me Vientos will play 5 of the 7, I think I'd take the push and give him a home run. But it's one of those ones that the variance is we just don't know what the lineup will look like. So hopefully he plays more, but I will go with the under because I'm also chasing some points here. Over under is 9.5 for Francisco Lindor hits. He had 14 in his last 7 games. Lindor is scorching hot right now, Joe. I think I'm going to dangerously take the over on Lindor. He looks as good as he has all season right now, and he's hitting the ball to every different direction of the field. He's hitting for power. There's been a couple of times where he's hit the ball where it looked like it should have been a hit, and they just had him played right or somebody made a nice play. So it's a big number, but I'm willing to take it.
He's been incredible, and I love his home run pose. Like that pose, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
I can't really, but when he hits one.
Did it on the dropped fly, like the one that was hitting the gap.
The ball was not carrying at all.
No.
In Williamsport. Like that ball was dying everywhere, but he did it as if he smashed it and, it just got knocked down. But Connor, I'm up by 10 here. I could stand to be a little more cautious. I'm going to go under. I think expecting 10 hits in 7 games, as hot as Lindor is, and I will be more than happy to hand you the point if we could come on this show next week and talk about Lindor 11 hits in 7 games and then talk about what his numbers are over the last 3 weeks rather than 2 weeks. So I'll go under.
Over under 91.5 is Nolan McLean pitches in his next start. In his debut, he had 91, Joe.
Very tough. Like, theoretically, he's going to progress and throw more pitches, but there's no guarantee of results in his next outing. That's one of the big things to keep an eye on. But you know what? I'm riding on the Cowboy. We're going over 91 and a half. We're going to take a step forward. Let's get to the 94. Let's get to the 95 mark, and hopefully that gets him through 6 innings.
I'm going to go under because I think the Mets, number one, they're going to manage these games, especially, coming up against the Braves and these division games as a whole, and eventually the Phillies. They're going to be very careful. And when they feel a guy is starting to fatigue or lose it a little bit, they're going to just pull the plug. That's why they have all these relievers right now. So I think McLean can have a good start where he throws 85 to 90 pitches. And I think that's probably the more likely outcome. But, Joe, if he hits the over that you went with, I'm going with the under. If he hits the over, it means really good things probably for Cowboy Ohtani in start number 2. Yes or no, will Sean Manaea complete 6 innings in his next start? I hate to say this, Joe, but there's just been no reason to think this right now. I'm going to go no, and I forget the competition. I'm praying I'm wrong on this one because they need 6 innings Sean Manaea back in the worst way. But the reality is, since he's been back, even when he's cruising for the first 3 or 4 innings, he just runs out of gas. And this is a guy that's dealing with the loose bodies in the elbow. He's like, I don't ever want to come on the show and always be making excuses for this or that, but Sean Manaea deserves a little bit of grace here right now. He is pitching through something. I need to see him comfortably get through 6 innings before I ever say yes to this one.
I'm going to say no as well, but I was very close because he is facing the Nationals, which is a team that he should be able to get through 6 innings. But this screams at the top of its lungs, the Mets pod 6-inning bet curse.
Great.
Yeah, 5 1/3, 5 2/3, and you see Mendoza come out and shake the hand. But I'm also going to join you with the no, but I certainly hope we're recapping a good Sean Manaea start next week.
All right, so the next one is the king trap question right here. Yes or no, will Kodai Senga complete 6 innings in his next start? Why I call this a trap one right here, and I'm going to pull up Senga's numbers, is that Senga hasn't given us any reason to believe this is going to happen, Joe. I mean, listen to his last 5 games. 5 2/3, which is the classic Mets pod curse. 4 1/3, 4, 5, 3. Forget 6 innings. Senga's number really on this should be 5, and it's 6. But I think there's a trap here because he is so due for one of his untouchable starts against a bad team. So, with all that being said, what do you like here?
Kodai Senga is going 6 innings against the Washington Nationals. Yeah, he is going. It defies, I guess, conventional logic, but the Mets are facing this bottom team in the Nationals, no disrespect, with Peterson, Senga, and Manaea on the mound. Peterson, I think, is going to have a rebound start, and one of Senga or Manaea are going to complete 6. Not both. One of them will, and Senga makes the least sense necessarily for it to happen based on, recent trends. But yeah, I'm in. Kodai Senga is going to go 6 against Washington. And I think it's going to be not just squeaking through 6. I think it's going to be a really strong outing for him.
Yeah, I agree with you. And once again, I'm chasing points. So when it's close, I'm going to go the other direction. But Senga's due. He's really due to be locked in. And it feels like a game where you're kind of hoping, like, if not now, when? Over-under push is at 4 for Mets wins. Mind you, they got 7 games. 3 against the Nationals, where the way they're lined up, you'd like them to take care of business and at least win the series. I get it. 3 at Atlanta, and it feels like they just never beat the Braves, no matter what state the Braves are in. But there's a pathway here, Joe, where they even beat the Nationals twice, beat the Braves just once, and still beat the Phillies and win 4 of the 7. So I'm going to push.
I'm feeling swaggy right now. I'm feeling like Mark Vientos. I'm going over, Connor.
Okay.
I think the Mets are going to wipe the floor with the Nationals. I think the Mets are going to sweep Washington. So then I just need 2 out of the next 4. I like my chances. So give me the over. Mets go 5-2 in the next 7, and the vibes of this show even increase next week.
All right. One of those where, once again, I'll gladly be wrong if it ends up the Mets winning 5+ games. All right, let's do a mailbag question here to close out today's show. Friend of the show, Jordan Simpson, JR Simpson Music on Twitter, of course. I love watching MLB players interacting with the Little Leaguers at the Little League Classic. That said, if you guys were Little Leaguers and had the opportunity to sit and talk with one Met this weekend, who would it be? What do you think, Joe?
Shout out to Jordan. The work that he does with the Mets music after every series and everything, just electric. If you don't follow him, make sure you do. But the one that I'm going to pick is actually Francisco Alvarez. And the reason I'm going to pick that, when I was 12 years old and playing Little League, my position was catcher. And I loved catching. I wanted to call games. I was throwing down signs, and you know what a 12-year-old curveball in your local Little League, not talking Little League World Series good, but it's just basically a loopy pitch. I wanted to call pitches. I was blocking balls in the dirt. I would love to have hung out with Alvarez, who just seems like the most fun guy, or one of the most fun guys on the team, and pick his brain about catching, because I wanted to be a catcher. And eventually the size of the field got too big for my little body, and the days of catching had to come to a close. But when I was 12, I thought I was a future collegiate catcher, but little did I know I just wasn't going to grow.
I think for me, I'm trying to put myself in the mind of a Little Leaguer. I would want to learn how to throw like Tyler Rogers, because there's no way a Little Leaguer is touching that kind of arm angle stuff. So as a Little Leaguer, if I could throw at the same arm angle as Tyler Rogers, just out of nowhere, not consistently, just once in a while, drop the arm angle down, I'd be like, listen, how do I do this? Just give me one piece of advice here. That's my most out of left field answer I can give you, Joe.
Couldn't you just ask him at like a family reunion or something? Your second cousin?
Not confirmed if we are cousins or not, but
you don't know if you're related.
By the way, MLB Shop still not selling Tyler Rogers jerseys. I have a huge issue with this. We need to get to the bottom of this.
We just need a custom jersey, Connor. They need to allow the custom, because you want the blue, right?
I think it's going to be the blue one. That's one of the ones missing from the closet right now, and it's a good look. So we'll see if we can make it happen. Let's do one more question before today's show, and because I've seen a lot of this on, and it's a great question from Michael at @sad_Mets fan on Twitter. Who are the Mets' most likely September call-ups? Could we see Sproat as a September call-up, or would the Mets stick to more 4A/veteran players they have as depth in AAA?
One key to remember here is it's not like you call up someone on September 1st and they're locked in for the whole month. So it doesn't have to be just you call up blank on September 1st. I think it's always going to be one position player and one pitcher. Luis Angel Acuna is going to be the position player. I don't think there's really another option. I sincerely doubt the Mets are calling up Jared Young to be on the bench instead of Luis Angel Acuna in September. That to me is easy. The names you want to keep an eye on the pitching side, Brandon Sproat, no question. I think he's going to get an opportunity in September. I don't know if he's the September 1 call-up or not, but I think Brandon Sproat is going to get a chance this year. Tyler McGill is rehabbing. I know some may roll their eyes, but Tyler McGill is on the mend and looked great against for AA Binghamton on Sunday. And a guy like Huascar Brazoban, who the Mets are trying to stretch out a little bit at AAA,
He's struggling a little. Yeah,
the results have been a little bit inconsistent for Brazoban. But I'd say those would be the three names to keep an eye on. And I sincerely think Brandon Sproat will make at least a start for the Mets at some point in September.
Joe, do you think if Jett Williams stays hot, is there any world where he gets to look over Acuna? No, right?
No, you're not calling up Jett Williams to come and hang out on the bench and
I don't think fast.
Well, that's what Acuna does. Jett, at least you want to continue to develop Jett, and I think Acuna is a guy that I don't know how much more offensive development there is in his tool bag. So let's keep developing Jett, and I know that some people are not going to love that because everyone wants to see Jett the Met, but I think logically, let's let Jett play out the year in AAA, and then we'll start having those conversations really in spring training.
Yeah, the Mets, not looking for more guys to get at bats right now. They're trying to figure out how to give the guys at bats. Acuna is just purely a runner in defense. This is the Mets Pod presented by Tri-State Cadillac. Performance, range, style. 3 different ways to make every drive an occasion. Whatever your reason, there's never been a better time to say, let's take the Cadillac. The all-electric Cadillac family of vehicles, the Escalade IQ, the Vistic, the Optic, and Lyric. Visit your Tri-State Cadillac dealer today. And remember to subscribe to the show at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your pods. Leave us a review with a question, and we'll look for it for a future mailbag. Of course, you can watch the show on SMY's YouTube channel. Become a subscriber over there as well. Let's keep the positive vibes rolling. We'll catch you next week.